Okay, I'm connected. The Wi-Fi thing is red. Okay, see, I entitled this video Get TV Episodes, but it's really Rescue 911 episodes. And I put milk bottle pictures because one of the episodes features a toddler that fell in a swimming pool. So, toddlers and babies have milk bottles. Baby bottles filled with milk. Okay. Now I gotta get to my thing. Okay. I'll go to Envision TV and I'll go to Ketchup. This is like free service until April 29th. Let's see. I'll go to account. See, I used the username Freeview, and but the max connections is 2,000. So not everybody can do this 1 month service, but Freeview is the username. It's all lowercase letters. There's no movies or series, but it does have a nice catch-up. Like 124 entertainment, 126 total. So, I mean, at least that's better than no catch-up at all. But, like, I've seen catch-ups that are larger, but it's free. How can you complain? So it's like a DVR and you don't have control over it. Like you don't choose. Okay, I'm getting to Get TV. Let's see. Get TV. Okay, so I do March 26th, which is yesterday. Now, maybe I should go check to see if this is live. Go to my bedroom. Okay. I'll put Flipper on. Now I can go to sports. Yep, it says live now. Okay, I'll come back out. Okay.
on Rescue 911. An all-terrain vehicle flips completely out of control.
Whoa! He might hurt! His neck is broke, and this is really, really bad.
One wrong move and the boy could be paralyzed.
I couldn't do anything for him except pray.
Plus, a moment's inattention could cause death.
Ma'am, calm down.
And one call could save a life on Rescue 911.
We begin on June 11th, 1991, as Ruth Fenwick and her family were finishing dinner in the long summer evening light at their home in a small town near Fairbanks, Alaska.
This is like ATV Big Brother and Kenny's bathtub.
Levi was, of course, excited because he just got his three-wheeler and he was playing around with that. I went out to check on the horses.
Hey, Tika! Hey, Tika!
They both broke loose.
Here, grab your truck and take off.
Jim stayed at the house while his wife and kids went to search for the horses.
Ruth took off on foot. Jesse and Roman jumped in Roman's pickup truck and took off. And Levi jumped on the three-wheeler and took off.
We went down to the store, it's half a mile down the road, and I was following him on the trail, hiding the three-wheeler on my truck.
I knew that something was going to happen when he was going down the trail that fast. His back end kept on bouncing up.
I was just putting the horses away and I heard Jesse.
Whoa! Whoa! He might hurt! Help!
He just told me Levi's hurt, he's hurt bad. I was really scared. So all I did is just get going as fast as I could.
He was bleeding hard, so there was blood all over his face. And then he wasn't breathing. For CPR, you're supposed to straighten him out so they have a clear wind passage. But then I was also worried about his neck, so I figured he was going to have to breathe, so I grabbed his head and I rolled him back. And then he started breathing real weakly, but there was getting air in his lungs.
Come on, Levi. Levi, you hear me?
And when he didn't move, I knew something was seriously wrong.
When we continue,
I kind of kept pushing it out of my mind that he's not going to make it. I was just helpless. I couldn't do anything for him except pray.
If you can't pick your family, you might as well laugh at them.
Just trying to edit out the commercial.
Call 1-800-282-18...
and an interior ambulance were immediately dispatched, but the ambulance was more than 20 miles away.
I started checking Levi for vital signs and all, checking his arms and everything. He didn't have any feeling anywhere.
Hello? Hi, this is North Pole Dispatch. I've already got an ambulance on the way out there. Can you tell me how old he is? He's 12 years old, or 11 and a half, okay? And I can tell you his eyes are dilated. He's got a large bulge. I don't know if his neck is broke or just what.
I just went to him immediately, and he was yelling, my neck, my neck, my neck. And I go, Roman, I go, maybe there's something under there.
I had to tell my mom to back off there. It was kind of difficult because I see the shape that she was in. But I mean, I made my mind up there. His neck wasn't moving.
Volunteer EMT Tracy Ogden, a close friend and neighbor, came to see if she could help.
When I got there, I lowered his collar and looked at his neck, and in my mind I remember thinking, his neck is broke, and this is really, really bad. I was afraid that maybe it could even be worse than that. I didn't want to believe that, but I was scared. Real scared.
Within 10 minutes of the call, Two Rivers Rescue arrived. EMT Tom Narrow was already on the scene.
You want to do everything you can for the child, but all the child knows is they're hurt. And you just want to stop hurting. Pediatric calls are probably the most stressful. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that I know what I'd want for my children.
I'm heading there. All right.
1, 2, 3, down. All right. I kind of kept pushing it out of my mind that he's not going to make it. I couldn't handle that. I was just helpless. I couldn't do anything for him except pray.
I just kind of stood there for a second, and there was actually, there was tears in my eyes, and it kind of shocked me. I didn't know if he was going to live at that point.
Levi was transported 35 miles to Fairbanks Memorial Hospital, where he was examined by orthopedic surgeon Ralph Marks.
He flipped his three-wheeler.
From the x-rays, we could see that he had torn everything that holds the neck together, and we don't like to say the word if we don't have to, but he's very, very close to death.
Dr. Marks was very matter of fact. You know, he didn't try to give us any false hopes. He told us this was very, very serious. This is right down where you live, your spine.
He has injured his neck.
And they said we're going to have to go in and operate. And they didn't give us any guarantee at all that he was even going to make it off the operating table.
Okay, so you get the head.
He had to be okay. I couldn't accept it. And I didn't want to let him go. I walked with him to the operating room. And I got to the door. It's like the realization that they're taking him off. They wouldn't let me go any further, and I might not ever see him again.
After 3 hours of surgery, Levi was transferred to intensive care.
During the first couple of days, Levi was in and out of it. He had a lot of questions like, why can't I move yet? And I was able to explain to him how his brother really helped him and how close it came. And he was astounded. He says, my brother saved my life. You know, and he really wanted to see his brother. You know, he was really moved by that.
4 days passed. Levi began to slowly recover.
I never realized how much I actually cared for him until this happened. Because I've never had anybody that close to me go through something too that serious. Life ain't a game, you kind of got to take things seriously because it's too fragile. And it ain't like you get a second chance at it.
It took real knowledge on Roman's part to try to calm his brother down, to hold his brother's head still. They were really on the edge of the cliff, and what Roman did saved Levi's life. Levi is very fortunate to have gotten the good result he did. Most people don't. And in my opinion, the prevention of the problem is so much better than relying on luck. And the prevention of the problem here was don't ride three-wheelers.
1 month after the accident, Levi surprised everyone by being able to walk out of the hospital.
I got my feelings stuff back, but I'm just weak. That's getting better rapidly. I just really thankful Mom and Daddy saved my life. I'm really thankful.
They're brothers and they fight like cats and dogs, but this brought some real closeness between these guys that'll last a lifetime.
Next.
I couldn't understand it. She was just highly emotional, totally hysterical.
You said your baby is what? Drowned? Yes. Does he breathing at all?
In this week's All New Smothers Brothers, catch the beat.
Give our sister a kiss.
279-0828. That's 800-279-0828.
School's in session with the Steve Harvey Show, weekdays at 7 on Get TV.
When a life is at stake, far from health, we may be called upon to do things we've never done before. As Lindy Kurtz discovered on the morning of November 21st, 1991, at her home in the hills above
This
the
is Kenny's bathtub. And the first segment was ATV Big Brother.
That day was my wedding anniversary, and we were looking forward to going out to dinner that night and celebrating. Emily got off to school on time, and Kenny and I had gone and waved goodbye to her. He loves to see the bus come, and he'll just wave frantically and bye-bye and give his sister a kiss. I bathe him every morning about the same time, and Kenny loves to play in his bath. We have a little baby bathtub that we put inside. It's not a protective device at all. It's just something that Kenny can sit in and play with his toys. And I heard a truck coming up the driveway. And it was our garbage truck. We had been there close to a month, and for some reason there had not been garbage pickup.
Was there a problem?
He said that they had trouble locating us, but now they had the address and he would be our garbage man.
Okay, great. Thank you.
As I rounded the corner, I noticed that it was quiet.
At 9:14 a.m., a call came in to dispatcher Pat Forschler.
Fire department medic 1 answers the tower.
I couldn't understand her. She was just highly emotional, totally hysterical.
Ma'am, calm down. You said your baby is what? Drowning? Did you get him out of the bathtub? Okay, ma'am. Try to calm down and I'll give you some instructions on what to do. How old is he?
CPR instructions are different for every age, so it was really imperative that I find out how old that child is, because if you give improper instructions, you could cut off the airway, you could crush the chest, because everything is different.
Try to calm down so we can help him. Yes. How old is he? He's 13 months old. Okay, what I need you to do is to get him...
Rescue workers with the Federal Way Fire Department were immediately sent to the scene, led by Captain Tom Thorson.
When it is a child, that's something you always dread because it could be my child. You're a little worried about what you're going to find. Is it going to be something that you can fix, or is it something that's going to be too late?
He's on the floor. Okay, what I want you to do is to pinch his nose, and I want you to put your mouth completely over his mouth. Give him 2 quick breaths, ma'am. Give him 2 quick breaths, and see if the chest rises and falls. Okay, ma'am. Okay, we have help on the way.
You have to do whatever you can do to get them to shut up and listen to you. And as soon as you know that you have their attention, that's when you have to go right into instructions, because if you don't, then they lose it again. They'll go right down the tubes again.
Okay, what I need you to do next is to put the heel of your hand, just one hand only, on the center of his chest, right between the nipples. And I want you to push down 1 to 1.5 inches, about 5 times quickly, and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Keep going, keep going, keep doing that. Help's on the way. You're doing real good. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breath. Keep going. Keep going. No, you keep going. You have to keep going for him.
She started to give up a couple of times, and I had to get her to continue, because if she didn't continue, then it was over.
Is his chest still rising? Okay, good. Turn his head to the side and let the water come out. We want the water to get out of there. Stop the compressions and stop the breath. Turn him to the side. Is he coughing? No. Is the water coming out?
When the water started coming out of Kenny's mouth and nose, I thought that might mean that he was already dead. And I was thinking about if anything were to happen to Kenny, I was thinking I would not want to live.
Lindy's husband, Dennis, raced home from work as soon as he heard what had happened.
My worst fear was that Kenny would not be alive. I started thinking about the funeral we'd have to go through, living in the house without Kenny. How would you possibly live in the house that your son had died in?
Are you getting air? Is his chest rising? His chest isn't rising.
Within 4 minutes of the call, the fire department arrived at the scene.
We didn't get any response, and as I backed up, I could see the mother running towards the front door. She was quite distraught and crying.
Are they there? Let them do it. You did real good. Okay, they're going to help you now. Okay, you did great. Goodbye.
Lindy did exceptionally. She was able to compose herself enough and be able to do what she was told and to continue and keep going. She was great.
Between the dispatcher telling her what to do and the mother doing it, the baby was trying to breathe on his own at that time.
When King County Medic 1 unit arrived, paramedic Tracy White took over Kenny's care.
The baby had respirations and a pulse, but his eyes were fixed and dilated. He was not moving. He had no gag when we intubated him, so he was not showing really good signs.
When I came around the corner and saw the fire truck and the rescue unit, I felt a little lost. I guess I just sensed more urgency at that point in time.
When Dennis arrived, it was a relief to me to see him. But the moment he looked at Kenny, I saw him.
He was just lifeless on the floor. And I remember thinking that Kenny was dead. I'm not a very emotional person. I keep everything in check. And I can remember grabbing my wife, and we stood and wept.
Got it. Ready? Right.
13-month-old Kenny was taken by air ambulance to the nearest trauma center. There was no room in the helicopter for his parents, so they made the 35-minute trip by car.
I had my fists clenched and kept hitting my legs thinking, how could this happen? How could I leave him for a moment? I told Dennis, if anything happened to my son, I love him so much. He's so precious.
The little boy was admitted to the Children's Hospital and Medical Center under the care of Dr. Dina Brownstein.
You can't always tell right away how seriously they've been injured. Children don't tolerate low blood oxygen levels as well as adults. And when they are deprived of oxygen, they very quickly have organ damage, perhaps the most important organ being the brain.
When Kenny was transferred to ICU, he wasn't breathing on his own. His future was uncertain.
We didn't know if he was going to have brain damage. We didn't know if he was going to live at that point in time. We didn't know anything, so we began to watch.
Dennis and I stayed with Kenny all day, and they allowed us to hold Kenny's hand and talk to him and sing to him. Approximately 9:30 at night, I was standing by Kenny's bedside and Kenny woke up. And he sat right up and he started talking to us, Dada, Mama. It was the most precious moment. To know that our baby was going to be all right.
Within 24 hours, Kenny was released from the hospital without any sign of permanent injury.
If you have an infant, you cannot leave them alone, not even for a moment. Don't become distracted by the telephone or by any other thing to take you away. In just a matter of a few moments, I could have lost my baby.
Okay. See, you gotta, to get the end of Kenny's bathtub, you gotta go to the next Rescue 911 video. I think I did number 3. the first one I did. Now I'll do number 4 to continue Kenny's bathtub. See, there's a photo of Kenny. Now the credits are going to roll.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, an emergency at sea.
She was in panic.
An underwater adventure means deep trouble.
This wasn't just a distressed diver. I had a diver that was dying.
Watch as friends take the plunge to save a life.
We're very concerned for her that she might not make it.
Then, hikers get the shock of their lives.
It was just the biggest snake I ever saw.
And a father races for help as the venom takes effect on Rescue 911.
Life should not only be measured by what we get out of it, but also by what we do to help others. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of real heroes whose concern and confidence make a difference on Rescue 911.
We begin on October 11th, 1992, as Jody Farber and a group of friends were enjoying a diving trip off the Florida Keys. Experienced divers, they were all too aware that the sea is not forgiving.
This is an annual event that we come down to Marathon for a 4-day dive trip.
Mark James and his wife Pat had only been married a month.
Pat's a very conservative diver. The first day she was a little too scared because of the current. But the second day, we had no reason to believe that anything was going to be out of the usual.
Pat asked my husband, Ken and I, if she could buddy with us that day. On this 60-foot dive we were doing, Pat stayed real close to us. This reef is known for its big fish. So Ken decided on this dive that he'd rather take his pole spear with in case he could see a nice big grouper or something good for dinner. I had just checked and made sure that we all were okay. We all were at 1,000 pounds of air. And I was looking around to see what else there was that I could play with or what else I could take some pictures of. Pat was sick wanted me that she was out of air. I just couldn't believe she was out of air because I knew she wasn't. But yet she was in panic. Her eyes were just as huge as saucers. So you react to that signal. When she got my regulator in her mouth, she was holding on to that with both hands. And she was making a horrible sound under the water. That was a scary sound to hear. I turned to see where Ken was, my husband, because I wanted him to come and assist us. And he had turned his back to us to look at something in the reef. When I turned back to look at Pat, she had passed out. That's when I really knew that this wasn't just a distressed diver. I had a diver that was dying.
When we continue.
I realized it was my life, and then I felt the most incredible feeling of helplessness I've ever felt in my life.
This
go out and live a healthy lifestyle, been able to do all the things that I need health-wise, and because I'm able to do.
In the hands of her friend, Jody Farber.
The main thought in my mind at that point was just to get Pat to the surface as fast as I could, without us dying or both of us getting bent.
Diving instructor Randy Shell heard Jody's cries for help.
Jody was panicking, not so much for fear of herself, but for her buddy. I pulled her up on the boat and rolled her over on her side, and then it became very obvious that she had drowned. She was attempting to breathe, even though she was unconscious.
Let's get these other people up.
After several expulsions of water, she basically regained consciousness just for a minute and screamed for help.
Get some oxygen. What's happening? What's going on?
Pat's husband, Mark, heard the commotion and came over.
I realized it was my wife. She was the most awful gray color I'd ever seen anybody in my life. I was on the edge of just falling apart. And then I felt the most incredible feeling of helplessness I've ever felt in my life.
The captain of the ship radioed to have paramedics meet them at the dock.
Diving side, Seafaring.
Throughout the 40 minutes it took to get Pat back to shore, they continued to give her oxygen.
Randy and everybody kept saying, oh, you did good. But my thought was, I did good, but did I bring up a vegetable? Was Pat going to be okay after all that?
Monroe County paramedics Jurgen Nicola and Kathleen Dobbins were waiting to treat Pat.
When we got on the boat, she was curled up in a ball, almost in what I would say a fetal position, and she was breathing, but you could hear that there was bubbles in her lung sounds.
Let's get her on the left side.
It was pretty conclusive that she had a lot of salt water in her lungs, and she wasn't getting enough oxygen into her bloodstream because it was filling up with water.
Okay, all right, Pat.
So in a sense, she was actually almost drowning in her own body fluids.
Hey, Pat, how you doing, Pat? Huh?
Her blood pressure was dropping and her pulse was increasing.
All right, good flow. We got a good flow here. I'm gonna take it down.
Okay.
Pat, how you doing? How you feeling?
We were very concerned for her that she might not make it.
Okay, I'm gonna get Pat on her left side. Okay.
Is hospital priority 1? The hospital gave us go ahead to give Lasix, which clears up the lungs so that a patient can breathe better.
No. Is it running? She's going into shock.
Okay.
Every paramedic's concern or outcome is to make their patient, I believe, better. But when they found them, she was getting worse. She was deteriorating.
A Metro-Dade air rescue helicopter transported Pat to Mercy Hospital in Miami, where she was put in a hyperbaric chamber. Her husband, Mark, rejoined her there.
Right off the bat, I told her I loved her and that I was glad to see she was doing well. And I told her, I said, when all this is over, we're going to sit down and have a good cry together. And we're going to get her back home just as soon as we can.
Pat was released 2 days later without any permanent injuries. The accident had occurred when a new mouthpiece disconnected from a regulator hose and she breathed in water.
I can remember the thought going through my head that I was going to die, that I was never going to see my husband again. We'd only been married 4 weeks. I thought it wasn't fair. I felt so sad and so cheated. And now that we still have a chance to do all these things, I have so much to look forward to. Mark turned to me when we were on the boat with tears just streaming down his face. and said, thank you, thank you. He said, you were the only person that I would have wanted her to have been with when this would have happened, because you saved her life.
Every day I realize that I was incredibly lucky to have Joey with me, that I'm extremely fortunate just to be here today.
Oh, Markiplier, there you go.
2 months later, Pat went diving again.
Bonsai. The crisis of having to go through this with someone and knowing how close to death she actually was makes me so glad and so happy that we have been given a second chance. And we both know what it takes now to make a good marriage after having been through a couple already for each of us. We believe we were intended to be together.
Next,
as I was running through the woods, he's getting real sleepy and real limp. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, my son's gonna die right in my arms.
meet Joy, the love doctor.
It's Andrew. Visit this website or call the number on your screen. Right now. And the next minute of their life could really depend on you.
And on the 7th day, you were given Walker. Walker, Texas Ranger. Now every Sunday from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Get TV. On March 8th, 1992, Nancy DeMorgandy and her husband took their 4 children and some friends to a wooded area near their home in Pinellas Park, Florida. Before the day was over, they discovered that for all its beauty and wonder, nature can also hold some very deadly surprises.
We decided to go on a nature walk to get away from the traffic and the people and just have fun. So off into the woods we went. My husband Daniel always walks a little bit ahead of us. He's got a walking stick he carries and kind of scares off any lizards or anything that us girls might not like around.
All right, careful. We make a lot of noise. Walking through these woods, of course, you're crunching on leaves and breaking branches. We didn't really think that there would be anything out there to really be afraid of.
I know what to take that one. He's like, get your head. Danny, wait a minute. Jeffrey's got something in his shoe.
I felt a thud or a push on my left leg, like Sean had kicked me, like he wanted to like slide down my leg and walk. And I turned around to throw Jean back up on my hip. When I looked at my oldest son, Noah, and he had this look in his eye, like just sheer terror. And when I looked at what he was looking at, it was just the biggest snake I ever saw. And it made this sound that goes right down to your spine and just grabs your heart out.
Danny, what is it? Danny!
And I checked Noah. I says, "You okay?" He said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then I checked Sean and I started frisking him from his shoulders and I came down to his butt.
I was scared, but I didn't understand what had just happened.
Danny, what is it?
I turned around and I pulled his pants down and I just saw blood.
I didn't know it was a rattlesnake until I heard the sound. It was like a death horn.
With all of my being, I ran just as hard and as fast as I could because I knew that this is a life and death situation. Because I knew the size of my son, I knew how big the snake was, and I just put just all this anger and frustration and just everything that I had in my body to running to get him to the fire station. As I was running through the woods, he's getting real sleepy, he's starting to get real heavy and real limp. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, my son's gonna die right in my arms. So I was yelling, like, please, Lord, just don't let this happen to my son.
Daniel drove Jean to Pinellas Park County Fire Station 36, less than a mile away. One of the paramedics on duty that day was Max Melendez.
Right away when I saw the fang marks, I was looking at least 3 inches wide, blood still oozing out. I knew we had a big bad snake. It looked like Dracula just bit him.
Good boy, John.
EMT Julie Heineke was also at the station.
Anytime someone comes in contact with a poisonous snake the size that this one was, you're talking about a good chance of death.
We got help.
What he needed was the antivenom.
Just hold on. You get ready to put him on the board.
I knew if I didn't get him to the hospital right away,
1, 2, 3.
the little boy would die.
The station had no ambulance. With time running out, Jean was put in a fire truck to be taken to the hospital.
By the time I got out of the woods, I couldn't breathe. And I looked down the road, and that's when I saw the fire truck, and I just started running for it. Nancy! Sheer terror was going through my mind. All I wanted was to get to Jean, and I couldn't reach him. The harder I ran, the further away the fire truck got. That's when reality hit, that it was a lot worse than I thought. And I really didn't think I'd ever see him again.
That's a 6. Lisa Vice, man outside. Still breathing.
I'm sitting there and I'm looking down at Jean, and he takes these 3 heavy sighs, and then his body went totally limp. I mean, I was holding his hand and I could just feel his life force just like leave his body. That's what it felt like. I just fell to pieces and I just started screaming, Jean, Jean, don't do this, don't die.
At Humana Hospital Northside, 3-year-old Jean was put under the care of emergency physician Beverly Wilshire.
Antivenom can cause serious allergic reactions, in fact, even death in some instances. So I had to clinically assess the situation and decide, well, should I go ahead and give this without testing it first?
It's okay, sweetie, it's okay.
He looked listless and unresponsive and very ashen in color. The child was in shock.
You found him out. Okay, here we go.
We checked his blood pressure, he didn't have one. At that point, I knew that things were very, very serious, and we had to get the antivenom in this child. I felt that if I hadn't given it as soon as possible, that his chances of survival, he would have died.
All the machines around him, all the IVs. I wanted to take the pain for Jean. I wanted to take his place. I couldn't stand to see what he looked like. The more I looked at him, the more I thought I was going to lose him.
Jean was transferred to All Children's Hospital, where he was given additional antivenom and blood transfusions.
As the moments and the hours passed, Jean's blood pressure kept dropping. And it got harder and harder to go in and be with him. The harder they tried to fight the venom, the more the blood pressure dropped, the more the blood broke down, and it got to the point where everything they tried seemed to make him sicker.
After 3 days, the little boy's condition slowly began to improve.
The first time Jean asked me if we could go home, I knew he was going to be okay.
2 months later, he has completely recovered.
Jean and my family are the luckiest people in the world. I can't believe that he was so sick. And you look at him today and it's like nothing ever happened.
Okay. See, I think you gotta go to Hot in Cleveland. I mean, I'm not gonna put Hot in Cleveland on there, but they're gonna show the rest of Rescue 911. Like the little couple seconds of it.
It just wasn't his time to go.
Stockton, Sacramento, Modesto.
Hot in Cleveland.
Not interested in Hot in Cleveland. Now I'm gonna exit out of here, and sometimes, you know, you can get TV to, you know, do Commando TV on Get TV. Let's see. Okay, now the 2-year marble save, or no, the little playing with a game piece, I already uploaded that one. Sporting Good Heist, Sister Save Sibling, already did that one. Already did the EMS and did the snowplow one. Okay, so March 26th. Now this doesn't really tell you what I don't know if it's gonna play. Sometimes these don't play on Commando TV. It's right now it's just circling around. Trying to see if Married with Children will play. No, it just circles around. I think I'll go back to Envision TV, because I can't seem to get Commando to play to catch up. Oh, it's almost 4:30 in the morning. It's 4:26. Oh, there's Get TV. Okay, I did the fourth one and the third one. Now I'm gonna do the first one. That's Walker, Texas Ranger ending.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a dangerous ride.
There was blood everywhere.
Rescue units fight the clock as a community pulls together to save a fallen horseman. Then, a little boy, out of sight for just a moment,
Something was out of the ordinary.
plunges into an open pool.
I thought he was dead.
Be there as paramedics and police race to the scene and confront the challenge to save his life on Rescue 911.
We begin on January 7th, 1990, in Mount Pleasant, Texas, as three close friends were spending the day together on the Chapman family farm. Greg Weaver and his friends had been riding since childhood.
It was early in the spring, and it was just one of the prettiest days we'd had so far, so we decided to get outside and go riding.
Michael Chapman led the way through a pasture behind his father's house. Joe Newland was close behind.
We rode it for about an hour or two. And Michael looked over at me and he asked me if I had ever ridden John's horse. I said no. So we switched horses and I turned her around and just kicked her and started running through the pasture.
I saw him gonna hit the tree before he ever did, and I opened my mouth to scream, and it was too late. And it looked as if Michael's horse didn't see the tree until it was too late. At that time, it swerved to the right and threw Michael to the left and into the tree. There was so much blood coming out of his nose and mouth, I couldn't tell if he was breathing or not. I knew a little bit about first aid, and I knew that if all that blood went down in his lungs, he wouldn't have a chance. So that's why I rolled him back over and tried to pick him up where he would start coughing that blood up. And when I got him turned over and had him picked up, he started coughing. Then I knew, that he was still alive.
And the next thing I know, I see my horse and Michael's horse just run past me without any riders on them.
What happened? He hit the tree and help me look.
There was blood everywhere. And I looked up at the tree, and that's the tree is what I remember most about the whole situation. It looked like a bear had reached up there and just took a hunk out of it from where his head hit.
When we continued,
When I got out there, I just felt just everything just left me. It looked like there was no way possible that he could make it.
Hey, hey.
No copays. Just call the toll-free number on your screen.
paramedic Paul Newby and his partner were out in the field when the call came in.
Dispatch advised respond code 3 to Oak Acres. Police just said a kid fell off of a porch.
I misunderstood the call. I thought our dispatcher to say that a young person had fallen off a porch. So we were expecting 6, 7-year-old child, maybe with a broken arm, nothing real serious.
When I got out there, I just felt everything just left me. I didn't know what to do, and I just thought, well, this is the end. And I was just hoping and praying that those paramedics would get there, because there was none of us out there really knew what to do. We was all real scared.
When they got to the gate, I just jumped on and told them to come around to the back of the house and I'd get off and show them where to go.
When we pulled up, He didn't have any blood pressure at all that would register, and he was unresponsive to painful or verbal stimuli. He wouldn't answer to anything. On three, 1, 2, 3.
Blood was pooling in the back of his throat, and he could possibly aspirate and essentially drown in his own blood. Head injuries, especially closed head injuries, are real bad. And when you're bleeding out the nose and the ears and the mouth, like Michael was bleeding, that's not good. They usually don't make it.
It looked like there was no way possible that he could make it. He was grasping for breath like that, you know, he wasn't gonna get the next one. And it was just a very bad experience.
Michael's severe head injury needed specialized treatment. He was airlifted to East Texas Medical Center where a trauma team was waiting, led by Dr. William Moore.
When I first saw Michael, he had no response to my verbal stimulation. In other words, when I talked to him, he didn't respond. And when I pinched him, he moved a little bit more with the left than on the right. His pupils were very sluggishly reactive. In other words, he was showing signs that his brain just wasn't working very well at all.
As the medical team examined Michael, friends and family gathered outside the emergency room, including his mother, Glenda Chapman.
The nurse that was with him looked down the hall and she said, I see he's got a lot of family and a lot of friends. The hall was just full by then of people, you know, that had followed us down there. And she said, would you give them a message? And I said, yes. And she said, pray. She gave me that one word. And they had told some of the family that they did not expect him to make it through the night.
On call that night was neurosurgeon Steve Gady.
This CAT scan showed that he had bruising in his brain, and sometimes after a brain is bruised, there will be such severe swelling, it'll cause even more bruising, and then that bruising causes more swelling. Therefore, even though we've got these wonderful CAT scans that show us incredible pictures of the inside of the head, it's very, very hard to predict what will work and what won't work, what his chances for recovery are and what his chances for recovery aren't.
Michael was moved to ICU. Even his doctors didn't know if he'd ever come out of the coma.
I suppose when I began to pray, the thing that went through my mind the most was that if Michael, you know, if his brain wasn't going to be functional, that I asked the Lord just to take him on because he couldn't live with that, and I knew he wouldn't want that.
But miraculously, Michael gradually began to awaken from the coma. He had lost motor coordination and suffered major impairment of speech and sight and memory loss. Five months after the accident, Michael is still undergoing an intensive rehabilitation program under the guidance of Dr. Mark Race.
Teaching someone how to dress themselves again, or how to comb their hair, or how to wash their hands, and do the activities of daily living. We attributed his recovery to all of these types of therapies and his own will to get better. Now let's say you walk on.
We never gave up. When the doctor would say, I'm not sure about Michael's vision, or I'm not, you know, really sure about his walking and this, that, and the other, you know, would say, well, he's gonna walk, and he's gonna see.
The reason that Michael is where he's at today and how he's recovered so fast is that he just never quit. The only thing Michael can see himself is as how Michael was before it happened. And until he gets to that point, I don't think he's going to accept anything else.
I realize now that things happen that aren't planned. I get very impatient. I don't like not being able to do things for myself. I don't like not being able to ride my horse. But I consider myself very lucky to be here.
I thank Greg Weaver and all the paramedics that was out here. They've really done a great job. And Greg and the paramedics just saved the boy's life. That's all you can say.
Even before he was released from the hospital, Michael and his fiancée Tammy were married.
It was hard not knowing what was going to happen, but it didn't matter. I was going to stand by him no matter what he turned out like.
Michael today, he's improved so much in the length of time since his accident. He loves life and he wants to get back on that horse one of these days. And he's real optimistic that this is going to happen.
On August 24th, 1990, a daughter, Jessica Brooke, was born to Michael and Tammy Chapman. Next,
when they finally grabbed him and took him away, the only thing I knew was he was not breathing at that time on his own. That meant I had a young son that was dead.
Meet Victoria, the humble actress.
All the most beautiful people in the world move to LA to become stars.
And I remember turning around, looking at the yard, and I didn't see nor a major airline. And I was playing Mr. Mom, which I do on the weekends. We had just finished breakfast.
D.
If this sounds like you or someone you know, visit talkabouttd.com to sign up to receive a personalized doctor discussion guide to help start a conversation with your doctor about TD. You'll also be able to access videos and a free brochure that show the different movements of TD. Visit talkabouttd.com or call 1-800-303-5019 to learn more.
I was glad to learn there are treatments for TD. Learn more at talkabouttd.com.
Extra, extra. It's the Get TV newsletter featuring star interviews, fun facts, and schedule highlights. Sign up today at Get.tv.
in Claremont, California, September 24th, 1989 began as just another quiet Sunday for Jerry Gavinish and his 3 children.
My wife, Diane, is a flight attendant for a major airline. And I was playing Mr. Mom, which I do on the weekends. We had just finished breakfast, and generally on Sunday morning we'll do a little yard work. We went outside, and Wesley was out in the backyard playing on the slides. He's also riding his bike, making a little bit of noise. And girls were in their rooms playing at that time. We have a hose that's out in the pool area. I pulled the hose out into the backyard so that I could water some plants that I had just planted. And I left the gate open. I all of a sudden noticed that there was a tremendous silence in the yard. I know there's something wrong at this point. Something was out of the ordinary. And I remember turning around, looking at the yard, and I didn't see, nor did I hear Wesley.
Girl, don't help me find Wesley right now. Wesley.
From that point forward, it was pure adrenaline shooting through my body. And all of a sudden, something tapped me on the shoulder and said, wait a minute, let's check the pool.
Wesley! Wesley! Wesley!
I pull back the cover, I look, and I see something on the bottom. And I had to look twice because I wasn't really sure what it was. And as I looked again, I noticed that it was Wesley. The next thing I know, I'm on the side of the pool, shaking him. But he's lifeless, totally lifeless. Then I knew it was time to administer CPR.
Come on, buddy!
I remember my youngest daughter, Katie, she said, Wesley, don't die. After that, Julie came running out and she said, Dad, should I call 911?
Oh, come on, buddy.
I thought, oh my gosh, this is actually real. Because I didn't think it was real until then. I thought it was just a bad dream. But I just remembered what I was supposed to do, and I did it.
Engine 101 of the Los Angeles County Fire Department responded immediately. Paramedic Greg Pranzovic headed toward the scene.
I have 2 boys of my own. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, so it really strikes home. And anytime you get an alarm where it may involve a small child, you tend to get a little bit more excited. You have a tendency to drive a little faster, just for the fear of knowing that it could be your child involved someday.
Sergeant Rick Mellon, on patrol only 5 blocks away from the Gavinish home, also responded to the call.
I don't like these kind of calls. Anything to do with a child, they scare me. Because I have 2 of my own, and they're very precious. And that's the only thing that was paramount in my mind. No matter what it's going to take, we're going to try to save this baby.
Within seconds, the police located the house.
The little girls did an excellent job by helping us out. They just wanted to make sure that their baby brother got help. So I take off, leave my car running, lights going, but at that point I really didn't care. What I have is a potential 2-year-old drowning victim, and we want to save his life.
I didn't know if my son was alive or dead at that time. I thought he was dead, to be honest with you. And I just had to pray to God that he would live.
Sergeant Mellon immediately took over giving CPR to Wesley.
I saw my partner come up, and I picked up Wesley. I said, "Let's go."
When they finally got back and took him away, the only thing I knew was he was not breathing at that time on his own. To me, that meant I had a son that was dead, a young son that was dead.
Fred's driving as fast as he can, without crashing the car, and I was giving Wesley the respirations as we're going down the street, code 3. And I'm yelling at him, "Come on, breathe." It was very important to me, and we had to save this child. I give him a couple more breaths, and then I look up and I see the fire department coming.
I saw one of the officers with a small, lifeless boy. As a police officer met me at the back of the police unit, he gave me the small boy and said, "He's not breathing. He doesn't have a pulse."
Come here, up back here, guys.
Everything just happens so fast. And then you have to sit back and think, well, did I do the right thing? I hope he's going to make it. And just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Paramedic Pranzovic kept trying to revive the boy.
We were traveling at a high rate of speed. I remember going around corners, sliding from one side of the police car to the other, with a small child in my arms trying to do mouth-to-mouth and CPR. And while I was working on that boy, thinking of my own 2 boys, it was all I wanted to do was to save that boy's life. About a half a mile from the hospital, I noticed the small boy had what we term an agonal respiration. He gasped for air. It was a good sign. All I could remember saying was, "Come on, boy, let's go. Let's start breathing. You can do it."
Come on, buddy. Breathe.
I remember getting to the hospital, and I felt for a pulse. He had a pulse, and it was a very good feeling.
After more than 5 minutes, Wesley finally began to show signs of life.
His heart was beating again, but he still didn't have enough respirations to sustain life, so I supported his respirations by doing mouth-to-mouth.
The Pomona Medical Center ER team was headed by Dr. Robert Stepanko.
We had been notified by the police dispatch that they were on their way, and we were ready for them. The panic-stricken face of the paramedic pretty much told the story. The child in his arms was limp, was peripherally blue, and the time was of the essence. He was teeter-tottering with life.
We go inside, and I saw him moving around, and he was screaming, yelling, as much as I dislike kids screaming. That was music to my ears, is hearing his screams, because you know that he was breathing on his own.
I was very happy to hear that baby cry. It made me feel really good. But the happiest moment was to hear Dad say, "Thank you, God, thank you."
My son was gone. He was gone away from me. And I found him 15 minutes later, alive.
The key to survival in a pediatric near-drowning arrest is providing enough oxygen to the brain And the only way that this can be done effectively is through CPR in the field. And had he not received CPR by the paramedics, the police officer, and Dad, no matter how fast they drove to the hospital, Wesley would not have survived.
Wesley was released from the hospital after 2 days. He has completely recovered. Although he may never remember the Sunday morning when he nearly lost his life, his sisters, father, and Mother Diane will never forget.
I have a deep sense of gratitude for the amazingly fast response of the police and the paramedics. They brought my boy back. You know, it's like...
Okay, it's probably gonna continue when the next episode starts. I already did 3 and 4, so I'll go to the second Rescue 911. See, that's the end of the other episode. See the girl holding her brother and walking.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a family in terror.
My son is armed and dangerous. We know where he is.
As a mentally distraught man stalks his loved ones,
He shot me.
leaving one victim wounded and officers with only one choice. Plus,
he must have been going about 60 miles an hour.
A hang glider violently crashes,
I thought Gilbert was gone.
sending a rescue squad off-road on Rescue 911.
We begin in suburban Texas, where 5 years of growing problems finally came to a head for one family on July 20th, 1989. Actors portraying the family members have helped us reconstruct the chain of events that followed. Late May afternoon, a woman we will call Susan went by her 78-year-old mother's house to check up on her.
I left work, and for some reason I didn't come straight home, and my mother lives very close to me, and I stopped that day. I'm not sure why.
Susan had been uneasy ever since her son had been released from the state mental institution 9 days earlier. She had committed him after several incidents of violence and threats to kill the family. Now he was out, and threatening to buy a gun. Officer Regina Joseph had taken the police report from Susan's mother.
She was frightened, and she was very concerned because Jimmy had a gun, and my mother had a bump on her head. He had knocked her down and hit her, and mother just instinctively grabbed the phone and dialed 911. As soon as he saw her dial the numbers, he ripped the phone out of the wall, and he left.
The mother was particularly concerned about the son because he did state to her that he would kill a police officer.
I called my daughter at work. I told her that he had been to my mother's and had assaulted her, and then he had a gun, and he was psychotic, and that he was looking for the rest of us.
Susan's daughter hurried home to get a few things before going to stay with a friend.
I think it was very hard for Martha because at that point, Martha realized that she had been mistaken about the severity of his illness. I think we all thought he would come for me first because I was the one who had initiated the commitment proceedings, and I was the one who initially threatened, and Martha had things to have. I don't think it ever occurred to her that he would hurt her.
When we continue.
with the complainant that had been shot who the suspect was and a description of the suspect.
I knew that if anything happened, if I lost her, it maybe didn't matter if he came for me.
Where are the police? Stay there. Grab something around your hand, hold it tight over your heart. Oh, try and slow your breathing down. Calm down, Martha. Just slow your breathing down. You're gonna be fine. They're on their way, okay? Okay.
Less than 3 minutes later, paramedic Mark Howell and his partner Buster Munson arrived.
Keep your ambulance.
I was relieved that the paramedics were there, but I was afraid that he was still out on the loose because he was very determined to go hurt the rest of his family. That's what Martha told me.
Can I come? Yeah, they're coming.
When we walked in, the lady had blood on her arms and all down the front of her shirt. Asked her if she's okay, and she was real hysterical. So we got her to come over and sit on the couch, try to calm her down and see what her injuries were. The bullet entered her hand next to her index fingers and looked to be lodged on the back side of her hand towards her wrist area.
Are you allergic to any drugs that you know of?
No.
Oh, it's very clear that it was a close call on her part and that he was attempting to shoot her in the face. And then just in the last second, she threw her hands up just in self-defense.
What kind of gun did he have, you know?
I'm probably a little angry at me because I didn't see this better. I think it could have been a lot worse. I'm very thankful that it was just my hand and that it was me instead of Brandon.
On her way to the hospital, Susan flagged down a passing police officer, Tom Payne.
You've been shot.
She stated to me that her daughter had been shot and that she needed to get up there right away and she wanted me to escort her. She then told me that it was her son who was the suspect on this shooting. She was very adamant that he was an extremely violent person and that any contact with him would be a very serious encounter. Drive your car. We're going to let you drive yourself over to the hospital. Okay? I guess she particularly felt, for some reason, that I would be the one that was going to confront her son. I never really could understand that, but she kept looking at me right in the eyes and saying, "You're going to have to kill him. You're going to have to kill him."
Payne had been heading to meet Sergeant Debbie O'Neill. Together they went to Susan's home to look for her son.
We proceeded over to the complex where the mother lived. We drove around the complex for a little while and we were unable to locate the vehicle that we were looking for. We had received information earlier that the suspect would kill any officer that attempted to apprehend him.
We stopped the car about 30 feet from where he was in the driveway. We looked at him, he looked at us, and we exited the vehicle and drew our weapons on him. And Sergeant O'Neill commanded him a couple times there to get on the ground, to put his hands up. He looked, he thought. Don't move! Don't move! And he got down on the ground. He just decided he just didn't want to do what he was thinking about.
620, we've got the
We were
suspect
looking at him on the
in
ground
custody.
there, and he just looked over at us and he said, "I just didn't want to die today."
On one hand, I feel very grateful that it wasn't a lot worse than it was, but at the same time, we have lost Jimmy, and yet he is still there because Jimmy's still very ill and very angry and still continues to say that when he gets out, there'll be a lot of dead bodies lying around. And we've been told that he means what he says.
Next,
The nose just pointed down. He didn't have any control. Down he went, going towards the trees, just like today.
Satisfaction guarantee. If you're not 100% satisfied with the solution you choose, Air Club will apply the full purchase price to another proven air loss solution at no charge. And that's not all. The first 100 callers will also receive $250 off the solution you choose from Air Club.
If you want to look better
if you want to feel better about yourself, Hair Club is the way to go.
My confidence is back.
This is really one of the best decisions I've ever made.
We offer a variety of tested solutions, from 2 types of non-surgical hair replacement we call X-Strands and X-Strands Plus, to several surgical hair restoration options, to multiple treatments that can and will help you regrow your very own hair back. They include our Extreme Hair Therapy program called EXT, which includes the only FDA-approved and clinically studied topical ingredient proven to regrow hair. And we also offer FDA-cleared low-level light laser therapy, also clinically proven to regrow hair.
This is my hair, and it feels great, it feels natural, it's growing, it's strong.
Knowing I look good makes me feel more confident. Having my hair back makes me feel fantastic.
I love my hair.
Call or go online now.
For more information, call 1-800-314-8041. That's 1-800-314-8041, or go to hairclub.com/save250.
We begin on July 30th, 1989, in the Sorrowtown Mountains, near Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
All right, look at him go.
It's a beautiful sport. I myself didn't want to be up there, but it was amazing just to see what good times they were having.
I'll help you join it, Jim.
Gilbert Aldrich was an experienced hang glider pilot. During the 6 months he had been dating Nancy Lumley, she had often accompanied him when he went flying.
Whatever he gets into his sport, I was happy just to be with him. You know how girls do when they date guys, they want to please them.
It's gonna be good.
The only other pilots on the mountain that day were Jim Bruton and Doug Rice.
Jim was already soaring overhead, so the conditions looked good, and I was in a hurry to join them.
Pull it down back.
He had showed me how to set a glider up, how all the tubes, where they went. And since I had set him up, you know, I did the check.
This one is a little bit straighter. I don't mind helping you just go properly. Just keep my arms in it. Okay.
So he holds that glider up, and then he would go over to the launch pad.
Okay.
Okay, buddy, watch that tree over there.
All right.
Okay, let's come on. I'll help you on the ramp with it.
All right, let's set it down right here so I can look things over.
Okay.
Okay.
And you forgot your helmet.
Oh. Can't reach it.
About that time, a good breeze comes. They always say that you might wait another hour possibly before you get that other good breeze.
I'm getting up there.
So you go for it. The nose just pointed down. He didn't have any control. Down he went, going towards the trees, just like somebody had shot him with an arrow.
It was after I'd gotten my glider off my truck when I heard Nancy scream.
See, he's over there in the trees.
I tried to keep Nancy calm while looking for some sign of movement. Since the normal flying speed of the glider is only about 25 miles an hour, I've never seen anybody get hurt by landing in a tree.
Jim, you see Gil's flight? He's down in the trees. Okay. Go down and land. I'll meet you at the bottom. Okay, I'll go down and get him.
Dad said, you go down to the road. By the time you get to the road, Gilbert's going to be standing there waiting on you.
Jim, Doug, and Nancy all headed down to look for Gilbert.
And I drove, and I drove, and I drove, and no Gilbert. And by this time, the tears You know, they were stringing and I couldn't hardly see to drive, and I thought, this can't happen to us. I mean, I love this guy.
The glider would obviously be the easiest thing to see. The main concern was maybe he wasn't able to get out of the glider. When I first saw the glider, Gil was not in it. And then as I moved in just a little bit closer to where the glider was, that's when I had the shock in my life.
What happened?
He said I wasn't hooked in.
Gil's over here, Jim.
At that point, the whole frightening scenario of what had happened kicked in.
We're gonna get you out here, buddy. Oh, bud.
He's been laying here for about 45 minutes, hasn't moved. And I realized that to have come down, straight down, as he obviously did, that he must have been going about 60 miles an hour.
Oh, God, it's bad.
He'd lost quite a bit of blood. Was struggling to speak as that the wind had been knocked out of him. And we assumed that he had internal injuries.
I'm gonna get you some help. Make sure you can get back to the spot.
Doug ran to the nearest house to call for help. A rescue squad from the Sorrowtown Volunteer Fire Department and the Stokes County ambulance were immediately dispatched to the scene.
Hurry, get back! I think he's hurt bad. When I heard the sirens, I knew then I'm not going to find him if they're, you know, just jumping up and coming running in my arms. He's hurt.
Among those who responded was paramedic Greg Collins.
It's very steep, very rocky, and very rough. We knew it would take at least 30 to 40 minutes to get back down off the mountain.
They were considering whether or not they needed a helicopter, and I asked them to absolutely get a helicopter. I have lost a couple of friends, but Gil's accident was one of the worst I've had to see since I've been in the sport of paragliding.
I didn't know if Gilbert was alive or dead until he said his first words.
You know where you at? You hear me? Yeah.
They were asking him what day it was. And it was Sunday, and he said it's Tuesday.
Second BP is 80 over 40. They told us that he had an open fracture of his arm, decreased lung sounds to one side, which was indication that he probably had a collapsed lung.
Ambulance up here.
His blood pressure was dropping dramatically over 5-minute intervals. He looked shocky, he was cold, and a day with a temperature around 85 to 90, he should not have been cold. This man was in serious trouble.
You didn't get to ride in the helicopter. Something I've been wanting to do for a long time. That's right.
I couldn't even see in front of me. I was crying so hard. I mean, he was just as white as white could be. It was like all the blood was drained out of him. I thought Gilbert was gone.
When the Air Care helicopter got Gilbert to Baptist Hospital, he was barely clinging to life.
2 liters of fluid in flight.
A trauma team awaited his arrival, led by Dr. Wayne Meredith.
He lost about half his blood, internally and externally. And so he was reaching the end of the fuse on his time bomb.
You get this tube in your chest and pop your lung over here, okay?
You wait all your life for that special someone.
Blood pressure, but we need to take him to the operating room because it looks like his kidney's been hurt pretty bad.
I was going to stick with him. I was going to be right there with him and pull him through this. I knew I wasn't a doctor. But I've always heard that if a person has love and a person has will to live, you're not going to lose him.
I'm gonna be out in the waiting room, okay? I love you, darling.
Okay, somebody call the OR. Tell them we're on the way.
3 months after the accident, I could just barely walk a half a mile. But Nancy was willing to give everything that she had for me.
Gilbert Aldrich underwent more than a year of rehabilitation, including 8 weeks in the hospital with a bruised brain, collapsed lung, punctured kidney, and broken elbow.
And I guess I would have failed in a breathing spot.
He's terrific. Has a little ups and downs with the elbow, probably always will, but besides that, he is back to normal, and we don't even talk about hang gliding.
If he'd been in shock another hour, he would have probably died of infections. The first responders in the pre-hospital group in this case did great. I think they did terrific. And they wasted no time. Time is critical in this situation.
He's very lucky. Not many people fall from the sky and survive.
time, but I was addicted to hang gliding. It is so much more awesome than anything else that I had ever done. Everything else fades to that. But the longer I was away from it, and the more I got involved in fun things with Nancy, I realized that I was enjoying life a lot more.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a family in terror.
My son's target.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more episode of Rescue 911. Let's see. I gotta bring the stand in my bedroom. Okay, now you can see the TV. I'll do Teen Angel Parrot Safe.
Loading video. Please wait.
People interact with you differently when you're in a wheelchair. I didn't realize some of my own prejudices against wheelchair-bound people until I was in one. It's that part of it's kind of hard to deal with.
Volume 30. Volume 36.
Wheelchairs.
Volume 40. Volume 40. Volume 39.
Situation because I'm doing real well. I feel like nothing important has changed. I still have the same goals and the same interests. I'm still the same person.
This program contains true stories of rescues.
All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
On June 8, 1990, Debbie O'Mara, her husband Patrick, and their 2 children were driving through the farmlands of central Michigan, miles away from home.
We were on our way to a family reunion. We were traveling down M50 and came up behind a white vehicle. My husband and I were just talking, and the kids, who knows, they were probably squabbling like they usually do.
Also traveling north on the narrow country road were Henry Dumonceau and his wife Maxine.
We were 15 miles from Charlotte. When I said, "Gal, I'm getting hungry," and he said, "Well, when we get into Charlotte, we'll stop and get something to eat."
There was an oncoming semi coming toward us, which we didn't really think much about. You know, you have semis pass you all the time. We, of course, realized that he had been hit, and the car immediately started coming off, off the side of the road.
It wasn't going to stop by itself, I could see that. So I threw it in park after it hit the brake and saw this man sprawled out in the seat in agony.
I looked in her door, and, he was just covered with blood.
Hey, he's hurt bad. Stay here, I'll go get help.
When we continue.
When I first got there, he was just covered with blood, and I got nervous, but I knew that this man's life was in my hands.
Wait.
First Families are funny.
While Debbie O'Mara stayed at the scene, her husband Patrick went for...
No! Jeez. I was just trying to get the thing off. The thing at the
Her
bottom.
husband Patrick went for help.
In options, closed captioning, button 1 of 4, option 1 of 3.
Speed was going to be the most important thing, and getting help as fast as possible, because I knew the guy was in bad shape.
He happened to stop at the home of Bernie Edgell and his 16-year-old daughter Shannon.
Come on in, we're going. There's been a bad accident right down the road.
At first, I started to call the ambulance, and my father said, "I'll do it, I'll take over," because he knew the number. Is there anyone down there doing first aid? I thought, well, I have to go down there because I know first aid, and I need to do something. I went in the bathroom and grabbed some towels and rags to take down to the scene with me because I didn't have my first aid kit, and I didn't know what I'd need, but something just told me to take that.
We received a call from Eaton County Central Dispatch for a personal injury accident. We were approximately 15 miles to the scene. quite a great distance from the hospital.
Shannon had just completed a high school first aid class 2 days earlier.
And she came running toward me and said, I've had first aid. And she got in there and she says, we gotta open his shirt up. Do you have a pair of scissors? And I said, well, Pat's probably got a knife.
When I first got there, I thought, oh my gosh, he was just covered with blood, and I got nervous. But I knew that this man's life was in my hands. I couldn't tell exactly where the wound was without taking the shirt off, so I could get the pressure exactly right over the wound.
I was amazed. She acted like she knew what she was doing, and I, thought she was a off-duty paramedic. I would have never thought she was that young.
I could hear that he was having respiratory problems, and it sounded to me like fluids were in his throat, and then sometimes his breathing would almost stop, and I'd say, breathe, breathe. He'd take a big gasp, and he'd start breathing again.
Sheriff's Deputy Kevin Herrick was the first official on the scene.
I was in Lansing area when they put the call out, and I immediately went code 1 and responded. It took me approximately 5 minutes to get there. Grabbing the first aid kit, I went around to the passenger side of the vehicle. I get under the front seat and then realized that nothing in the first aid kit was going to be big enough. It looked like something had come through the windshield. It opened him up, probably a grapefruit-sized hole in his chest, just above his heart. At that point, it didn't look good for him at all. It's a fine line between life and death, and you don't really realize that until you're actually working on someone that is that close to death.
Almost 15 minutes had passed since Henry Dumasso had suffered the freak accident.
She may have been scared. I believe maybe we both were at the time, but you don't have time to think about it. You just do what you have to do.
Patrick said that they could see the ambulance coming down the road, and I told Henry, and he said, I can't hold on any longer, I just want to die, just let me die. And that just crushed me inside to hear him say that, because he'd held on for so long. I said, don't give up now. Now the ambulance is here, don't give up.
Hey, what's going on? What do you got here?
When I saw the wound that he had, I started to get the feeling that, this is going to be one of those ones that I'm going to feel for a long time. I really didn't expect him to make it. When we took his initial vital signs, his blood pressure was 60. It was so low we couldn't hear it with the stethoscope. He had lost so much blood that it was very critical to get a large amount of fluid into him quickly, because we were afraid that Hank was going to go into cardiac arrest.
I knew that there was a chance that maybe he wouldn't make it through this, but I just felt that he would be okay, and I hoped he would, and I prayed for him.
We're taking good care of you. We're taking you to the hospital.
I couldn't squeeze the bag's IV fluids and hold pressure on this man's chest all at the same time.
We have a critical patient, and we'd like to assist from one of their personnel.
They stopped at a local fire station to pick up an EMT.
He maintained the pressure on the chest while I continued squeezing the bags, the IVs.
My name is Ron. You're doing fine, Hank. Just hold in there, bud.
Within 50 minutes, Henry arrived at St. Lawrence Hospital, where he was admitted under the care of Dr. Gaius Clark.
Pretty good.
They gave us about almost 20 minutes of advance notice, so we knew from the very beginning that we had a man that was massively injured, a man that was basically bleeding to death.
1, 2, 3. Okay. Did your neck hurt?
The trauma surgeons were there, anesthesiologist was there to put a tube in his lungs to breathe for him, cardiopulmonary was there to do electrocardiogram and blood gases, the laboratory was there to draw blood on the man. All these things were done within 20 minutes.
I'm going to have to put a tube down into your chest to help you breathe.
One lung was basically collapsed and filled with blood. The surgical team put a chest tube into the lung. The blood immediately went into the autotransfuser, and before he went even into surgery, he was given 600 cc of his own blood back. So even though the prognosis was considered extremely grave, there was at least the possibility that he would survive.
For 2 weeks, Henry remained in a coma. His wife, Maxine, could only hope and wait.
We went to see him in critical care unit. Oh, God. I never thought he'd make it. I didn't think he'd survive. No, I didn't.
After 3 weeks, 76-year-old Henry Dumonceau was doing well enough to be released from the hospital. He continues to slowly recover from a broken clavicle, broken ribs, severed arteries, and a punctured lung.
It's been almost 5 months now, and I get around pretty good. And I even mow the yard, which I couldn't do for a long time. Yeah, I'll get back like I was. I'm determined to, or try to anyway.
Hi, you must be Shannon.
4 or 5 months after Henry was home from the hospital, I got to see him again. It was just so neat. There's like a special bond between us, even though we haven't talked a lot to each other. There just seems to be something special there.
It's hard to find the right words to express your feeling to somebody like that. People like Shannon, I mean, I don't come along every day.
I think everyone that stopped to help this man deserved tremendous credit, because this man had the type of injury that literally in a matter of minutes would bleed to death. If any link along this entire chain had been broken, this man would have died.
I was really thankful. Even now, I think about it quite a lot. How unlucky and lucky I was, you might call.
Next.
I wasn't sure if it was in the house, if it was outside. All I knew was we just had to get downstairs and get the boys out.
We begin on the streets of East Boston, late in 1982. Ever since Ed Escalillo had made the startling discovery that there was a parrot living outside near his home, he had wanted to bring it inside as a family pet.
Hi. How are you?
But he could never manage to catch the bird.
One night, my wife and myself had come home from a Christmas party, and it was the first snowfall that we had that night. And she had gone over and moved the trash barrel, and the parrot was there, and he started screaming. But it was so cold that when he tried to fly, his feet were actually frozen to the ground, and he couldn't move. We brought him into the hospital. The doctor says to me, either one or two things will happen. He'll die of pneumonia, or he'll have severe frostbite, and he'll lose all his toes. And sure enough, as time went on, his toes all started to turn black, and they fell off one at a time. Very rarely did he talk. He sounds more like a pigeon than a parrot. By him being outside all this time, we think he started to mimic the pigeons that he was hanging with.
We didn't want to clip his wings because when he started losing his toes, he wasn't going to have any way to get around. So we had a spare room, and we let him stay in there, and he used to fly around, and he managed.
On September 23rd, 1983, a major gas leak in East Boston changed everything.
It turned out to be the busiest night in the history of the Boston Fire Department, with well over 460 some odd runs in just a 5-hour period. The situation was caused by the malfunction of the gas regulator. The defective regulator allows that high pressure gas to come right through the regulator and flood it through the whole system in that square mile of gas pipe.
Sweet dreams to you guys. See you later. Good night, Elliot.
Now, if somebody had a house in that area of East Boston that morning, the pilot light, which normally is just about visible, would have shot up as high as 18 inches. In some cases, the gas pressure actually blew the pilot out. Now the house is filled with gas. If you didn't have a pilot light, the gas overtakes the oxygen, and now you're breathing straight gas.
We used to shut his door. For some reason, we didn't shut his door that night, and they usually don't fly at night. I could hear Elliot screaming and flapping and just flying all around us. I could smell the gas, but I was incorporating it all into my dream.
Around 3 a.m., officials began evacuating the homes in the neighborhood.
Evacuate your houses with the gas leak. Evacuate your houses with the gas leak.
We had 3 major fires, all going at the same time, plus an additional at least 50 small flare-ups of fires.
The Ascalillos were sleeping so deeply, they never heard the police warning. Ed's friend, Billy Kenny, ran over to see if he could help.
It was a battle zone. It was chaos because people didn't know what happened. Fire started and nobody knew why.
In my dream, my brother-in-law was trying to light the stove, and it wouldn't. I was saying, don't you smell the gas? Light a match and get the pilot lit. Everything all happened at once, with Elliot screaming and flapping over us. And that's when it woke me up.
What's that smell?
I was cold. My skin was clammy, and we could smell the gas. I wasn't sure if it was in the house, if it was outside. All I knew was we just had to get downstairs and get the boys out.
Green, don't turn on the light.
With gas filling their house, any spark from a light or a ringing telephone could set off an explosion.
I could hear it just like a steam pipe.
Eddie, hold on, pal.
Ed got Eddie, and I got Michael. They were still asleep. They were groggy. I don't know if they were overcome by the fumes or what, but they did not wake up until I got them outside.
The fire trucks were just arriving on the scene at these houses. Either they've had an explosion in their house or they've had a fire. They're on the street. Ones whose houses were on fire were out to save their tail. Ones whose houses weren't on fire were out to help people whose houses were on fire.
I saw Ed go back into the house, and it upset me to think why was he going back there. But I just had to get my boys away from the house.
Irene took their kids to Eddie's mother's.
I didn't know what was happening, because I just thought that was it. I thought I'd never have another house again.
Unlike many of their neighbors, the Ascalillos had their windows closed that night. The gas levels in their house were dangerously high.
I was really upset, but I had to get my boys safe. And as soon as they were in my mother-in-law's house, I came right back.
Where's Eddie? I'll get you out of here. All right, everything's okay, Tom.
Take Elliot, please, bring him over to my mother's house. I still have to shut the gas.
Eddie, get out of the house!
We were greatly concerned that somebody would come in or pent up a building, especially one that had no pilot light where the gas wasn't being burnt up and used, that somebody would come in, throw a light switch, and hit some residual gas that would be in the building. And it would have been disastrous.
I was screaming for him to get out. He just wouldn't get out, and I could still hear the gas. So I ran around the corner, and I grabbed a fireman.
Ed could not seem to turn off the gas main.
Oscar always one who thought about having fire extinguishers and smoke alarms in the house. I don't know where I got the strength. I had gone back over to the pipe, and I grabbed a hold of the pipe. I found the gas main, and I shut it. And there was no more gas in the house. And it really never dawned on me until afterwards. I says to myself, you know, if this was 20 minutes earlier, or we were not wakened by Elliot, then we'd all been history.
By 11:30 that morning, the incident was over.
I heard about Elliot the parrot afterwards. He saved that family, no question.
Acting Deputy Fire Chief Joe Hooker inspected the damage in the area.
We were so very, very lucky that there were no injuries and no deaths. The big thing, I believe, was the fact that people left their homes and got out on the street. They got out of the building.
7 years have passed, but the Ascalillo family will never forget what Elliot did for them.
If it wasn't for Elliot, I don't think we'd be here. He went on a mission to get us up, and that's just what he did.
Elliot's veterinarian, Marge McMillan, sees a logical explanation for his actions.
When birds are in captivity, they do begin to treat people like other birds, and because of birds' instinct to warn the flock through screaming, I think it may very well have been a way of alerting his family.
In 1988, Elliot became the first bird ever to receive the state's Pet Hero of the Year award.
He loves us, and we love him.
For more full Rescue 911 videos, hit the big red button and subscribe. Peace out, YouTube.
Launching YouTube.
Now that's the last episode I'm gonna do today. Okay, now I'm going to hit end event. See, actually, I filmed this video in 2 locations. I filmed the first 4 episodes in the living room. And then I used Tiki Live to film Parrot Save and Teen Angel, and I was using my Roku streaming player. So now I'm going to click on Finish Event, hit the big red button and subscribe. Peace out, YouTube.